Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will always remember back in my days in ministry, a morning, it was a Saturday morning when the church was extremely busy. There were yoga classes, there were youth groups meeting, and I was in my office when one of the women in our congregation, the wife of a very prominent business person who earned a good salary, came racing into the church and asked if I could hide her. And I said, "What do you mean, hide you?" And she said, "My husband is after me and I'm frightened of him. I'm frightened of what he will do." I put her in my office. I closed the door. He came in. He was in a rage. I gathered he had been drinking, but he was in a rage. He went around the church banging on doors, looking for her. In that instance, I had a very good illustration of what her life looked like at home, Mr. Speaker. At home were 3 small children. In fact, she had left them with a babysitter so she could run out. And finally, we managed to move him out of the church. Clearly, even calling the police would have taken too long in that instance. It's the only real time I felt true terror in my job in that church. Despite the fact that we had a high-needs community, we had people who had crack addictions and mental health issues, never had I felt true terror until that moment with that woman. I asked her, after we got him out, "Why do you stay? Why don't you leave if this is what you're living with?" And she gave a very telling answer. She said, "I can't afford to go. Where would I go? I would lose my children if I left because I can't afford to keep them. I can't go to a shelter with my children." This is, I understood why she wouldn't want to go to a shelter with her children. And she said, "I'm there to protect them. That's why I stay. And I'm there because I cannot, again, afford to leave." Now, this was a woman with some means, presumably. Imagine all the women out there who haven't those means, Mr. Speaker. I want to talk about the backdrop to violence, because there's active violence. Those are the perpetrators of violence. We can all, I think, in this House agree that they should be dealt with, and swiftly. But then there's the backdrop that allows it to happen, and that is the issues of poverty, which is a woman's issue in the province of Ontario. Poverty is a woman's issue. It bears a woman's face. And you heard yesterday my friend from Beaches East York talked about the length of time a woman-headed family with 3 children would wait for affordable housing. That time is 24 years. That's the waiting list, 24 years in this province for affordable housing. That's something we can do something about, Mr. Speaker. We can do something about the housing file. Instead of having the worst record in all of Canada in terms of per capita investment for housing, we could have the best. That's something we could do to help women. Women make 72 cents on the dollar to men. We could do something about that equity issue. We could move on that. That would help women who experience violence. We could, for example, help an organization called Victim Services, which is just down here in College Street. Luckily, they get free housing from our police. Thank you, police, for giving them free office space. They are the only agency in all of Toronto that actually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, goes out when there is a domestic violence call, actually goes out to the house and assists the victim. They do so with a huge army of volunteers and a very few professional social workers. Why do they need such an army of volunteers? Because their funding has not gone up in 20 years. They're funded by this government. And in fact, their funding has fallen per capita in that time from over $200 in the 90s to $31 per victim today. So again, this is something we could do. This is something the government could act on tomorrow if they had the will to help women who are active victims. That just takes money. That's all it takes, Mr. Speaker, and that's something we could do. So yes, active violence, do something. And I believe when 1 in 3 women are being assaulted at some point in their lives, this is a tragedy. This is a disaster. This requires input from all levels of government and everyone, and of course we're going to support the motion the member has brought forth. But, and the but is a very large one, Mr. Speaker, but it's just not enough to ask for awareness. Women who are being abused and beaten as we speak here in the comfort and safety of this legislature need help now. And that help has a dollar value attached to it, and that help should be forthcoming. Now, on a brighter side, I want to leave, it's such a horrible topic to have to speak about. We speak about it every year. We're going to speak about it more, hopefully, if this motion passes. But on the side of who's doing what about this, I do want to bring members' attentions to tomorrow. This weekend, as we know, is Mother's Day. And tomorrow here we are having a press conference featuring the leaders of a number of faith groups across Ontario who will all sign on to a document that says they, as leaders in their faith groups, are committed to ending violence against women. That has a powerful symbolic value because many of us who are faith leaders know that within our scriptures there are problematic passages. We are more aware of that than anyone. And so it's important, it's very important that faith leaders stand up around this issue and speak out in support of women. And they are. And for the first time, we have a Sikh member coming tomorrow. We have Buddhists, we have rabbis, we have leaders of many Christian faith groups that are coming. All will sign on to that. That is a powerful statement. It's a powerful action that says, wherever you are, if you're part of faith groups, and we know that women are large parts of faith groups, and in fact, most congregations, women take the lead in terms of keeping the congregation vibrant across the faith. So to have their leaders come, take time out to focus on this just before Mother's Day is the best Mother's Day card I can think of that faith leaders can give to women in their congregations. And that, by the way, was an all-party effort, Mr. Speaker. We all came together to make that happen under the umbrella called Ruth's Daughters of Canada. So every few years we do this here, and it's always very moving, very important. So that's happening. But, I'm going to leave some minutes for my colleague as well. But, we have to do due diligence in this legislature. We have to fund groups like Victim Services so that they can do their work, my goodness. We have to do something about the housing crisis in this province. It's been going on for 10 years because it affects women and children the most. We could have moved faster on the child tax benefit. 25 and 5 has asked us to, because wherever children are, women are, and it helps them. There is so much more we need to do that we are able to do here, Mr. Speaker, and I certainly hope that before this government ends its term, we do get some action. Again, to all of those women who are perhaps listening, to those families who are listening, because violence against women affects families, not just women, please know that there is help available. Please search for it. Please look for it. And please know that everyone here's heart is with you. Our prayers are with you. Our support is with you. You do not have to go through this alone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.